Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and I want to thank everybody for making this happen, putting the work on. It moved pretty fast, getting the work on the wall, and I always talk about that part because it's also the way I think about making work is about being accessible. I do like to have conversations in the academic world, but I also like to have conversations with folks that's just everyday people. I do it's a pleasure for me to have my mom or my cousin Pookie. I always talk about Pookie. Cousin Pookie come to the exhibition and be able to appreciate the work as well as somebody from a university or whatever. So I try to make the work in that way. And when you look at the work, you'll see um, those kind of elements. I make work that mimics high-end art, work that you might see in a museum or a gallery. Uh, the framing that you see on the work is I call it a faux frame. This fake is mimicking frames, the high-end framework that you might see in bigger spaces, and that's also referencing the history of portraiture and how portraiture is also one of those mediums that were um, only people from on high end, could pay someone to paint portraits of them. So the work that the people that I use are everyday folk. They some of them do come from my own personal community, but I travel a lot, and I also do the same thing each time I travel to communities. I love to go in the neighborhoods and meet people and talk to people, right? and so that becomes a part of the work as well. So a lot of people are from Memphis, North Carolina, Lafayette, um, um, yeah, those are most of the people in this show. Spaces I've visited, and I do have other spaces. Omaha, like every time I visit somewhere, I like to do photo shoots and meet people and have like regular conversations. And those conversations also become a part of how I think about the work that I'm making. So the show is called Study Long, Study Wrong. And if you listen to rap music and you listen to UGK, which are artists that were based out of Port Arthur that moved to Houston, and Pimp C was the person that always say study long, study wrong. And I love to use things like that from like rap music because it's also paying homage to the artist. And as we know, Pimp C passed away a few years ago, and Pimp was really instrumental in Southern rap becoming what it is today. And for me, rap music is also the rap artists are speaking from a certain place. And I think it's important because to highlight them because a lot of times with black culture, we ignore the genius that exists within um, the culture, especially when it comes from like people that we don't deem important don't come from academia. But I've always believed that Willie, the shade tree mechanic, is just as much of a genius as somebody that's in academia. So for me, the hip hop artists are people that speak directly from a certain community, and and I think it's important because in 30 years we'll be able to look back and talk about what we were thinking about as a country. And as with hip hop is one of the rawest forms of art that's being done. A lot of times we do see the things that are problematic about it, and but the problematic portions of what we hear is also a reflection of the overall themes that we're dealing with in society as a whole. So I think it's so important that we do make space for people that come from that at what we deem is low, I guess, poverty or low culture, and understand that those that are normally people that are dealing with things that are super important, right? Because it's something that trickles down or trickles up to every other people. So that's what the work is about. Some of the pieces are pieces that I did after Nipsey Hussle died, which is a rap artist out of California. So some are commemorance of him. This piece right here is called Nipsey Blue. After he died, Crayola came up with a color called Nipsey Blue because he was also associated with the crib culture of California. And if you watch basketball, the LA Lakers also had a Nipsey Blue outfit. They still wear that was also dedicated to Nipsey. But what the importance of Nipsey was also thinking about community building, and he was able to go into a certain part of LA that people couldn't do anything in. Nobody could build in that space. Everybody was afraid to invest in the area. So what Nipsey was actually doing the work. So a lot of times, again, when it comes to the artists, we don't appreciate them for who they are because of what they're associated with. But the reality is, a lot of these people grow up right next to what needs to be done, and they do the work. So I'll maybe talk about, um, I don't know, let's see. Oh, I can talk about these four pieces here. And I won't waste any more of your time, right? All right, so these four pieces were from my About and Bout show, and they were the absolute last four pieces that I did for that show. When I was making the work for the show, I felt in the first group of people that I got to come in and take pictures, most of them were college and working class folk, and I felt like it needed a little something else to make the show, bring it out full circle because I'm a hip hop person, right? So these guys were at the site of my last photo shoot, and it was at the MLK Center in Lafayette, Louisiana, and absolutely nobody came to the photo shoot. I maybe had like a couple kids that were in the recreation center that was just running around, and I took pictures of them. But that wasn't what I was looking for. And we were packing up to leave the space, and it was a group of guys that were out in the parking lot shooting a rap video, and it was exactly what I needed. So I was a little nervous about going over, and the assistant, the curator was also at the photo shoot, and he was like, "You think I should go over?" I was like, "Nah, I'll go do it. I'll go take care of it." So I walked over, and of course the guys were a little hesitant about me, who I am, who are you, what you got going, which is understandable. They don't know me from anybody else. So I walked over, and the guy with the orange and white on was the photographer for the video shoot. And I started having a conversation with him, showing him what I was working, showing him some of my work in a little flip book I had. And from there, that made it easy to come have a conversation with the rest of the guys. Everybody, it was like, I think it might have been 9 people out there and only 5 took photos. The main guy that was in the photo, the video shoot was there, but he was a little goofy. So the photo he took didn't fit with what I wanted. And the other guys with the photographer all fit what I needed. And from there, I was just like, I looked at the photos, I was like, this is it. And it ended, it brought the whole exhibition full circle. So this was from the About It exhibition. And if you buy the catalog online, you'll see those photos in there. And I think these other three here, the three biggest photos on the three biggest paintings on this wall. So, oh, and last, if you, I know I'm gonna have this question without time. So my work is a lot of collaging. So, and for me, collaging is about we're dealing with when dealing with any issues, it's about a layered thing, right? It's not one thing that it's just like surface level. And I think a lot of times when we think about issues, we think about them like it's immediately what we see. But what happens is histories behind our communities are in a certain way. It's current things that are happening that create environments for it. So the work that I do is a bunch of collaging. I'm also a graphic designer, and this is an extension. The paintings are an extension of the graphic design work that I do. So I do the collaging in the background. I paint on paper. I cut that out. I collage that on. I cut the canvases, the frames. And I collage on top of the frames, and then I also collage those on top of the canvases. So all the work is a bunch of collaging, bunch of putting things on top of each other. And in this piece right here, which might be the only piece, is some images of my son's drawing when he was a little younger. So I also collage those in there as well. So a lot of times when I think about like issues when it comes to Black folk, I think about like things that are created in order to make it easy to do things for in the community. So if you wanna buy a property in a Black community that's normally like south of downtown, right, which is maybe 5 or 10 minutes from downtown. Any city you look at, where and you have to do some um, demonizing of the community, of the people that's in those spaces, right? Even though a lot of times these people are the people that feed your kids, work at your businesses, um, are usually the backbones of communities. Look at New Orleans. Like, how can you talk about New Orleans without talking about the Black folks that cook the food, that are hospitality for the hotels, right? But what's happening in New Orleans, people are being pushed out of their communities and forced to be moved further east. And my thinking is like, what is going to come of it? Like, is the one's going to be as flavorful as it is? And it's flavorful not only because but Black folks are definitely the important part of it, right? What comes there, right? So I think so with the words respectability and pressure. Pressure is a word that's always used in hip hop music. There, those are things that I like to flip and play around with, like those words, like using them in different contexts. So it makes you really think about like the idea. So when you think about, I always think about like when I started growing my hair originally, I had long locks on my back, but everybody kept asking me like, what you doing with your hair? Can you get a job? That whole idea of respectability, those respectability politics that comes along with, something that's natural. So my natural hair being locked is associated with not having a business, not being able to do the job, not being ghetto or whatever. And those are the things that are that we use to demonize and certain people in order to oppress people, right? So that's where respectability, the pressure, like words like that. I like using those type of words in the work to kind of like play around with that. It kind of like guiding and thinking of how you when you walk into a feast, right? You're gonna already have some kind of association with what you see, right? Oh, he looks like so and so, or I can see him. I saw him in a video, or I saw him on the news, right? These people look like somebody. So I like to use the wording to kind of play around with that, and also like the imagery in the background. It's kind of like a way to get a conversation, start a move, start making you think about like the direction of where things are. Ebony Swords, Ebony uh, Life, I don't know, yeah, Judge. I have one that's Judge, which is an old um, publication that I found while I was at Ole Miss. I went to the University of Ole Miss, and while I was there, it was this section of magazines in the third floor of the library in the farthest back corner called Judge, and that's where I found like some really interesting advertisements from the early 20th century. So 1906, 1908, and you'll see some in some of the backgrounds if you go. Then the other ones are like a lot of the liquor companies that advertised in the black magazines, and some were from Time, and I got a number of different magazines that I kind of keep collecting. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it, really.